As I said, we are on a tight timetable today, so the event will finish at 10:45 so that we can carry on with the other events. But let's start off. I'd like to welcome you to our panelists today. I'm joined in asking the questions by Ash, one of our lovely academics. But I'd like to welcome Rosalie, Sam, and Rachel as our alums and guests in this panel. And I'll let them introduce themselves a bit more. But thank you for your time today. So, my first question. Can I ask the three of you, can you please remind us of your job title? We have it all over the website and social media, but for the purposes of this session, can you remind us of your job title and a few of the typical things you might do in your day? Rosalie.
Hello. So I am a marine educator. I'm based at a resort called Coco Collection in the Maldives, and I work to involve sustainable tourism and to involve guest education into their holiday experience. So some of my job duties include guiding snorkeling trips and providing code of conducts to make sure everyone's behaving properly. And we also do megafauna surveys, so manta rays, turtles, sometimes other animals like whale sharks sometimes we come across. We are also in the middle of our nesting season for turtles, so there's a lot of data collection for that. Some night shifts sometimes. We had last night there was a turtle laying eggs. And also managing, we have a little coral restoration site as well that we work to do artificial reefs and coral planting.
Thank you. Sam?
Hello, my name is Sam Langford. My pronouns are he, him. I am a part-time project manager for the What Makes Viruses Tick project at the MRC University of Glasgow Centre for Virus Research. This is a citizen science project that is focused on finding out where people's sightings and bitings of ticks might have been across Scotland, whether that is on a person, a plant, or a pet. That's working with researchers based at the Centre for Virus Research to try and understand the mechanisms for viruses that exist within tick populations and are able to move to different hosts. So whether that is passing things on to us, passing things on to livestock or to our pets. So people may be familiar with Lyme disease, which is a bacterial infection. We're looking at some of the other things that are spread through viral infections. So there are a couple that exist in Scotland at the moment, but there are more that are starting to make their way into the country. So we're trying to work with people across the country to make them more aware of that. So a typical day for me in that respect is speaking to a huge number of different partners, whether it is land management groups, whether it is local authorities, national parks, schools, charities, lots of different animal welfare groups, in order to try and find ways into communities across the country. So for example, in 2 weeks' time, I get to spend a little bit of time in Benbecula speaking to the communities on the Uist about their interactions with ticks and the impact that it has on their lives. So it's a 2-year project that I'm working on there. 2 days a week I do that. And the other half of my time is spent as a freelance engagement consultant and science communicator. So that is working with academics to tell them how they should work with public audiences, not tell them, show them how they can do it and work with them to do it in a really good way. I also do stand-up comedy. I'm a Twitch streamer. I play Dungeons and Dragons and get paid for it. I do lots and lots of different things. So a typical day for me is not typical at all. There's lots of different things that go on.
So you've got the ultimate in a portfolio career, as they say, in consultancy land. Yes.
And you could probably teach me a thing or two about teaching.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam. Over to you, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm an ecologist for Amy Consulting, who are involved in sort of building and maintaining all types of infrastructure. I am based all over the UK, and I don't think that I have a typical day. Every day is different in an ecology's life. And I guess it could be split into sort of desk-based or sort of site work. And when you're on site, you can be looking for a variety of protected species. You can be doing habitat surveys. bird surveys, things like that, or writing up a variety of reports, whether it's sort of large scale EIA or very small scale species specific reports. Very different every day in my job. I also play Dungeons and Dragons and don't get paid for it, so Sam, we need to talk.
Yeah, get in with Sam.
Yeah, come play D&D with me, Rachel. We'll make it work.
Thank you. Already we've got a huge diverse set of careers from animal biology. But anyway, I'd just like you to sort of reflect. Maybe some of you don't have to reflect a bit more. What was your first job out of graduation? And do you think it provided support or a platform for the job that you have or jobs following? Shall we go in the order of Rosalie, Sam, Rachel? Sorry, Rachel. So Rosalie, what was your first job out of graduation? And did it provide support or a platform for future jobs?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2020, which was the year of COVID when everything went down. But I was actually really lucky in the fact that I got an opportunity of October in 2020. This was with an organization called Revolution, and it was volunteer, so it wasn't a paid position, but my accommodation and food was covered. And for a first job out of uni, it was okay for me to go into. So that was based in Kenya, and that was to do coral restoration, and it was a new startup site. So it was starting from baseline. So we did a lot of surveying, a lot of consultancy with the resort and planning to set up this project. And that definitely helped me get into my next job because I had experience with coral work in the tropics and also in resort life as well, which is quite important.
Can I just ask a question? Was it quite competitive to get the role that you're in?
Yeah, it's incredibly competitive. I know a lot of people that even within the field that have had a few years of experience that are really trying to get into things. So it is quite, unfortunately, it's one of those things where a lot of the jobs that when you first start out are unpaid or low paid.
Yeah, okay. But thank you. Sam?
So I graduated in 2013, which feels like a whole lifetime ago at this point, 9 years. I was in a very fortunate position where I had my final exam in fourth year on the Friday and started the first job on the Monday, which was with RSPB Scotland. So I moved in to work with the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds in a community engagement and fundraising role, which was a real kind of cornerstone for me in terms of understanding that engagement with the public and working with public audiences was where my passion really kind of lay. I'd picked up on quite a lot of that in some of the things that I'd done in my time at Glasgow. I spent some time in Trinidad and Tobago on one of the Exploration Society trips, and we did outreach with kids there, and I loved it. So it was already starting to really kind of drip feed into my kind of consciousness that I really enjoyed that. And then moving into a role where my day-to-day was go out and speak to the public about the plight of birds and other species and habitats across the country. And I loved it. So that for me, I did for just under 2 years. And I think it's had a huge beneficial impact on me understanding what I want out of my career.
Okay, thank you. Rachel, your first job?
My first job out of uni was a data entry processor for this mouthguard company. It was nothing to do with my degree or what I wanted to do, but it was a way to make ends meet. So whilst I did that, I decided to get my foot in the door with a bunch of different organisations volunteering. And it took me quite a while. It took me, I think, about 6 months. I also graduated in 2013, same class as Sam. And my first environment job was as an environmental specialist for a road maintenance company. And it doesn't sound very interesting, but what we did there was we did sort of small scale EIA, just because our projects were so small scale, we had to sort of make it fit for purpose. And it meant we were getting involved in all different disciplines of the environment. We were getting involved with waste and materials, with water, with cultural heritage, noise, air pollution. And I think that was a really good entry into my career because it gave me a taste of all different flavors of the environment, and I kind of got to choose, okay, which one is the most appealing to me here. And yeah, it helped me make up my mind for what, because I had no idea what I wanted to do when I left uni, which is why I volunteered at, I think, 3 different places, and they were all very different. So yeah, a lot of indecision, but yeah, you don't necessarily know when you first leave. It just takes some time.
No, thank you all. I think I often say to students not to stress so much about the first job you get on graduation. It is about experience of work. It is about gathering those transferable skills. And if you've got some sort of sight line of where you'd like to work, that's fine. And I think knowing you're not going to get, I hate this term, but dream job. The first job is not going to be your, maybe your ideal job or where you'll spend time. Knowing that allows people to feel a bit more relaxed about the situation.
And anyway, it can really help it can help focus you to be like, this isn't what I want to do, and make you really sort of look where you do want to go.
That's right.
And yeah, you've got to make ends meet, as Rachel said. So just in terms of in your sector, do you think there's an advantage to you having a higher degree, either doing a master's or a PhD, or have you done one of those, or do you think it would be helpful? And we'll just go in the same order. So Rosalie, if you want to start as well.
Well, actually, I don't have a master's or PhD. I just did my honours, and I feel like the field that I am in, it's actually more beneficial to have another skill alongside a degree. So I have seen jobs, I even applied for one recently that they wanted a master's, and I still got interviewed for it. So it's still worth applying for these jobs anyway. But I've seen a lot that want diving, scuba diving, especially dive master or instructor level. That is also useful. So it just depends on what sector or what kind of job you see yourself doing as well.
Excellent, thanks. Sam?
So for the 2 different parts of what I do, the public engagement manager role that I have at the Centre for Virus Research, I would say there is a real benefit in having experience within academia, and not necessarily a specific degree. I have an honours degree in zoology, but then I'm working in a virology centre. So it's like very different worlds that I'm existing in. But having an understanding of how the academic world works is definitely being a big benefit for me. It wasn't a prerequisite for the role that I ended up in, but I felt that it was beneficial that I'd spent time in that world to build the skills. Similar to what Rosalie said, like I think the skills that you get are more important than the piece of paper that says you have a degree. For some of the other things that I do in terms of science communication, people might go down the route of a master's in science communication, which is offered by University of Edinburgh, University of the West of England, University of Bristol, which is a really beneficial potential course that you can get involved in, but it does cost quite a lot of money to participate in these things. And that's not something I ever did. It is all about the experience that I've built up along the way. So skills building is probably what I'd say to really build your time. It is beneficial to have your degree, but I've never been asked for it. Like when in terms of applying for jobs, I've never been asked for it. But I know that the skills that I built along the way of getting to that point have definitely led me to where I am now.
Thanks, Sam. Yep. And yourself, Rachel?
So I always wanted to do, I thought I wanted to do a master's degree, and when I graduated from my undergrad, I knew that wasn't the time yet. I wasn't ready quite then, so got into my job, the small scale EIA one that I mentioned, and realised, as I said, that biodiversity and ecology was where I wanted to specialise. So after I think maybe 2 or 3 years in that role, I went back to university to do my master's part-time whilst working, and ended up graduating with a degree in ecology and conservation, and that's then where I've begun to specialise. I got a different job with a different role, which is more focused on that side of things, and I think that helped in that instance. It sort of refined my skills a little bit more. But the way my career was set up, it was quite unique in the respect that there wasn't any other ecologists in my firm at the time. So it was kind of something that I had to go and sort of learn for myself and build up those skills for my own knowledge. Because a lot of the time you'll get these sort of things, you'll get sort of on the job training, and you'll have sort of mentors there and stuff if a degree is not where the route that you want, another degree is the route that you want to go down. So for me, I found it beneficial. But yeah, I don't think I would be going down the route of a PhD anytime soon.
And if I remember correctly, Rachel, did your work kind of supported you through that? You did it part-time whilst also working. Did they help to finance it, or?
Some of it was through SAS, and my work, I took some blocks of sort of unpaid leave to go, because the university was up in Aberdeen, so and it was quite hands-on being in a college. There was a lot of field work, a lot of lab work and things. So yeah, they were quite good at respect that they allowed me to take those sort of breaks. But I don't think it was funded through them.
Okay.
I did do
I suppose being able to work alongside doing it probably financially helped a lot.
It was a bit of peace of mind.
Yeah, because as Sam was saying, it's not always the cheapest thing to do. So being able to have that flexibility is good.
Thank you. So on to our fourth question now. Again, a bit of reflection from the three of you. If you can think of any volunteering or any extracurricular things that you did that aided you getting into your chosen career, or even if you didn't do them, maybe some suggestions of what students might do, based in mind that it's, it's about the rounded person and more than the degree. Or so any extracurricular things or volunteering that you did, starting with Rosalie.
Yeah, during my degree, I did some extracurricular. So I was the leader of the 2019 Egypt expedition. And so that was part of the Exploration Society. And so that's where I did my honours project. And that was on the obviously tropical coral reef. And that is then how I got into my future jobs as well. So that was a really big part of building my career. Also, I helped out with a PhD student with her research in the labs as well. That was at Glasgow Uni. So it's always worth speaking to everyone that you're around, everyone who's helping out in the labs. If you get to know everyone and ask if they have any projects, if they need any help, that's always really useful to do. Also in between, I think first and second year, I volunteered for RSPB. And they have a few different places around the UK, and it was a residential one. So I got to live on the site, and that was in Rathlin Island near Ireland. So yeah, those were a few of the volunteering things. And recently I did a bit with Greenpeace. That was in between my two latest jobs.
Thank you. Sam?
Yeah, quite an extensive list of a voluntary experience in the past. Like Rosalie and as previously mentioned, spent time in Trinidad and Tobago, mostly in Trinidad as part of the Exploration Society between my third and fourth year. Also did my honours project in that time, which was like a hugely formative experience for me in terms of building lots of different skills, spending time in close quarters with the same people for 3 months, which are really good transferable skills for quite a number of the roles that you can find in animal biology careers. Budget management, project management, things like that you don't realize you're learning at the time you're doing them, but actually when you look back, they're really, really beneficial to be able to demonstrate that, whether it's for a role you're applying for, or for when you actually need to do it, when you find yourself in that position of, how do I write a project plan? Oh, I've actually done it. I know how to manage a budget because I've done those things. I also spent time volunteering for RSPB as well. So I spent a lot of time at the Loch Winnoch Reserve, which is not too far away from Glasgow, working in public facing roles. So that was a lot of time spent working at the visitor centre. I did pond digging with frog life. I did bird ringing with the BTO, with the British Trust for Ornithology, and also built up a lot of skills that I wouldn't have got by spending some time with the Scottish Wildlife Trust. So I was able to get access to chainsaw licenses, pesticide control licenses, which would usually run into the hundreds, if not thousands of pounds to get those skills. But by spending time volunteering and working with small charitable trusts, as well as the Scottish Wildlife Trust, I was able to get those skills that I never ever thought I would be able to afford or find. So yeah, volunteering has been hugely, hugely important.
Thank you, Sam. And yourself, Rachel?
So as I mentioned earlier, when I left uni, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I got involved with 3 different organisations. One was the Scottish Wildlife Trust. I think I'd been volunteering with them since I was at high school, so I knew them pretty well. So that was more of a ranger role, sort of out on the reserve, again, sort of public facing as well, and in the visitor centre down at New Lanark. And my second role was as a volunteer keeper for a small zoo out in West Lothian. And the third one was a set surveyor for Scottish badgers, which is more, it's more what I'm doing in my career today, really. But the fact that these roles, they were all very different, but I was interested in them all. It just sort of gave me a little bit of a taste of what each role would involve, and what an average day in that kind of career might look like, and it did help me to choose when it came time to, well, obviously these skills that you gain are transferable in putting on your CV and making you look really good when you're in interviews, but also it helps you choose at the end of the day, if you've got that option, what route would I rather go down, and what did I enjoy the most, and what can I see myself doing. So it was invaluable, I think, having that variety.
Thank you. I think it's all 3 answers have enforced the benefits of volunteering, particularly in your sector, and also they provide a real great stepping stone for your future. Thank you. Ash?
Just with the volunteering, I think some people get worried about volunteering, especially if they have to work part-time, that they've not got time to do it. Even volunteering a day, a month is beneficial, the things that you can learn. And lots of organisations are happy to have that, or half a day a month. But as long as you're regularly doing it, you're still building up those skills. So it's not something you have to be doing 3 days a week volunteering or such, like, so if you're also working a part-time job. But yeah, the job market is very competitive, and as we could have said, our sector, volunteering, can be very beneficial. But is there any ways that you can think that can make yourself more marketable in the sort of competitive job market, or do you have any particular valuable piece of advice that you would give to sort of future students coming through?
I actually think these days social media is really important. I found, especially recently, if you kind of build your social media towards more the area that you want to work in, you get to meet so many people, and you'll be surprised at the amount of people that are doing the same thing as you, and you can all share information. And also that's what everyone's scrolling these days. So if you want to share information, you want to educate people, doing it through whatever you want, like Instagram or TikTok these days, it's actually really useful. And I feel like people kind of like laugh it off as it's just like teenage stuff, but I found it really useful. And especially in the Maldives, we're made up of islands, the amount of people I've met on nearby islands that are experiencing the same things. For example, when we had an oil spill, I was able to reach out to people and to work out what other islands had also seen it. And these are people that I've just seen on Instagram, like nearby tags, or just people I've met through other people as well. So it's definitely worth looking into that.
That's really interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that necessarily, but yeah. And yourself, Sam?
So I would fully agree with Rosalie in terms of social media. I think that would be my biggest piece of advice is get yourself on Twitter first and foremost. It is the public square now. It's where you get to network in a more kind of closed off environment. So networking is one of the most powerful tools that you have in terms of making people know who you are. And whether that is in terms of grabbing a coffee with someone that you think is really cool and you might want to work with, or if it is sending someone a DM on Twitter about what you like about their work or what you might want to collaborate on. Both of those things have really, really powerful impacts. For me, social media has been the most powerful thing for finding work, like throughout my entire career, especially in my freelance work. I find most of my work through marketing myself on Twitter. I use Instagram a little bit. I do not touch Facebook, and I'm like tiptoeing into TikTok and Twitch. They are places that you can really become visible and known. It's a chance to meet people who are not directly in your sphere geographically as well. I've found myself being able to work with people all around the world. I do quite a lot of work in the United States and across the EU, even some work into Southeast Asia. And a lot of that has come through social media. So yeah, building a presence on a social media platform, whichever one is most comfortable for you, would probably be my biggest piece of advice. The ones that tend to be the nicest, if you're worrying about some of the backlash that can come with spending time on these platforms, Instagram tends to be the nicest of a lot. Twitter has really good reach, and TikTok has real potential for proper engagement with people. So yeah, social media would be my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, and I suppose, is it kind of about having like a sort of professional presence? That's not to say that you can't have fun with it, but, you know, kind of having your personal and professional ones separate.
Yeah, some people will separate the two. I'm a bit of a chaos goblin and will just like smash the two together and just present a full authentic version of myself, which has its pros and its cons. But some people will have a personal facing account that is limited to who sees it, and then a very polished professional account. It completely depends on how you prefer to present yourself. Both have their advantages.
Cheers. Thanks so much, Sam. And yourself, Rachel?
Yeah, I would agree. But just to add to what Sam and Rosalie have said, the companies that I've worked for previously have put a lot of stock into presenting themselves on LinkedIn as well. And it's a good way for you to sort of get an idea of recruiters and of different companies and maybe the different things that they're involved in. And I know from our point of view, we use LinkedIn quite a lot to get some traction and to put, if we're looking to recruit, for example, we put out some adverts on LinkedIn. We put up some sort of like maybe things that we've done, like a social impact day or things like that, to sort of encourage people to have a little bit of look at our profile and things like that. And it's just a really good way to build a network as well professionally. And as I said, there's a lot of recruiters on there, so you might get people that are reaching out to you if your profile sort of matches maybe a job that they've seen and things like that. So it's always good to keep it updated and make sure you've put like all of the information on there that you possibly can, like treat it kind of like I suppose a CV, and keep it up to date and keep it sort of filled with everything that's relevant for what you want to do, really.
Excellent. Thanks, Rachel. I can see Fiona going, yeah, you're saying great things, because these are things that I say in my everyday life. And it's lovely to hear then when, you know, alumni are saying similar things. We're not always making it up. And then just my last question I've got is kind of, what opportunities is there in your sort of sector to either sort of advance and progress and sort of move on up the career ladder, or possibly, you know, work overseas? Obviously, we've got Rosalie who's working overseas at the minute, or even whether it's easy to change career paths, do you think?
It just really depends. I think everything is so different. But in my case specifically, I feel like there is a lot of branching out I could do. For example, it would be quite possible for me to go into the diving industry or more the hospitality side of things. But also, since working here, I've got to meet and get to work with a lot of NGOs and local organizations as well. So there's a lot of networking that I've done here. So if I did want to change, or I wanted to move on to a special charity to do more specific research into a certain animal, I could definitely eventually go into doing that as well. So it just kind of depends what you're doing and what you want to do.
And making sure you're networking and always kind of talking to people.
Yeah, but also these people become your friends as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, like even on my island, there's a turtle rescue center. So there's a vet and a vet nurse here. And I didn't really expect to be working with a vet so closely, but I do. Sometimes I become a nurse and I'm in there breathing for the turtle. It's happened a few times when things are really busy, and when the busy season hits, you never know what you'll be doing.
Excellent, thanks.
I think for me, I never expected to be doing exactly the setup that I have right now. I never expected to be working in a centre for virus research. It was never something that I thought I would end up doing. I never thought that half of my life would be spent working for myself either. In terms of my specific sector would be the kind of science communication and public engagement. There are quite a lot of opportunities to find out there. I think the thing that I would be honest about and say is that funding is a real issue in terms of finding the work that exists in public engagement and science communication. It is becoming much more prevalent in terms of research funding requires public engagement to be written in. The Wellcome Trust and UKRI are starting to move things to be very much more focused on that. So I would expect to see that there will be some level of boom in our sector in terms of the opportunities available. But that also means it's very competitive. There are lots of people looking for jobs all at the same time. I think that the benefits that do exist in terms of freelance working are very high right now, especially when we're in this cost of living crisis that we're existing in. Lots of companies and organizations are unwilling to put down contracts for people that employ them, but they'll bring them on as a consultant for a smaller amount of time. There's less risk for them. And generally they're not committing to 2 years, they might commit to a few months. So that's some of the opportunities that I have in terms of progression and new opportunities coming up. I have changed career paths multiple times, trying out different things. I'm 31, I'm 9 years out of university, and I still don't think that I found exactly where I want to be. And I like the chance to just try lots of different things and find out exactly what works for me. I'm still not there. You still have plenty of time to do it. And in terms of overseas work, just last week I got invited to come and deliver training in upstate New York, which I never expected would happen. I've been invited to Malta. I've traveled around in different parts of Europe, and also did a lot more digital work, so working with people around the world without having to leave this little office in the south side of Glasgow. So there are lots of really good opportunities out there for trying out new things, progressing, and working with people you never thought you would ever.
Excellent, thanks, Sam.
Well, my sector is consultancy, and at the moment, from where I'm standing, we are screaming out for ecologists at the moment. They seem to be so few and far between. So that's my experience in there. In terms of opportunities to advance, again with consultancy, you might start off in a graduate role, and then you would work your way up through, assistant, senior, principal, if that's the kind of role that you would like to stay in. Otherwise, I think it is quite easy to sort of change career paths within that sort of environment. For example, I've changed from environmental specialist to ecologist to ornithologist, just dependent. I've just been getting more specialized as I've realized where my interests lie, and with larger companies as well, like these sort of like Jacobs and WSP, Amy and Natural Power and things like that. There'll always be opportunities like to work all over the UK and also to work abroad, depending on where they've got foundations. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Excellent, thank you so much, Rachel.
Cool, thank you for all your answers. That's, I can see where there's a lot of enjoyment in your roles. I just wondered if there's any questions from the student audience today, and if you could put it in Q&A. There's a question now from Clara. She says, with regards to social media, how do you propose students, in brackets, who don't have any work to post about yet, get started building a presence? Good question. So any social media, whether it be LinkedIn or otherwise. So how do you propose students who don't have work experience get started building a presence? Any suggestions?
So I would recommend things like on Instagram to share other people's posts. So if people post, you can put it onto your story, and then you can add comments to it. You can be like, oh, because some people post like their research and they'll have like their abstract or like pictures of their findings. You can repost it and be like, I found this really interesting article. They found this is my interest. Things like that. It's not always about what you're doing, but also to share interesting things that are going on. And it doesn't even have to be where you are. It can be something from the other side of the world of someone you've never met before. And that's what's really amazing about it. So yeah, just sharing other things, or even I've seen TikToks of people being like, I'm studying today in the library, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like, I've discovered something amazing. It can just be your day-to-day life of like, this is what I did in my lecture today. Did you know this? Like, it can just be things like that. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking, like news or anything.
Yeah, thanks, Rosalie. I mean, students are often asking me about LinkedIn etiquette and when they contribute. And my kind of mantra is be interesting, be helpful. I think different social media platforms have different ways of engaging, and some things are okay on one platform and not on another. But I think with the professional site, which is LinkedIn, be interesting, be helpful, I think is my motto. Sam, do you have anything to add to the question that Clara's posted?
So I would agree again with what Rosalie's saying. Like, social media by definition is social. So even if you don't have things that you have to post about your own life, we all do. You just need to find it. But like talking to other people, telling them that you like what they're posting, sharing it, like whether that's on stories or retweeting or duetting with a video on TikTok, those sorts of things will start to make other people take notice of you. And then if you have things you want to share, and whether it is like here's what I did today, here's a day in the life of a PhD student, or here's what it's like being an undergraduate at the University of Glasgow, those sorts of things just start to make people aware of you. And there's lots of other people around the world doing the same things, so you'll quite quickly start to build a network in the community that you're a part of.
Thank you. Rachel, any top tips to add?
Basically just to echo what Rosalie said, I guess. Going back to LinkedIn, if you can follow a bunch of different sort of companies and organizations, and they will get added to your profile, that these are the different types of things that you're interested in, sorry. And people will see if you like or if you comment, that will pop up on other people's, if they've got you as a connection, that will pop up on their feeds that you've been interested in this type of thing. And again, it might help if there's recruiters out there. It might help them to see the kind of things that you're interested in as well, and help them make a more informed decision.
Thank you. Right, time's marching on. I just wondered, I think there's no more questions there. We have literally 2 minutes to the end of the session, so I'm going to keep to time and just really thank our guests, Rosalie, Sam and Rachel today. Thank you for your time, really appreciate it. It's been a stimulating session and you've kicked off our 2-day career science fair really well. So yes, have a great day. Rosalie, have a great evening. I just wanted to know, Rosalie, on a last note, have you got any sunshine to show us while we're in the autumn in Scotland?
Oh, let's see. I think it's right there.
Oh, wow.
It looks horrible.
It's still hidden in the bushes.
Wow. Not envious at all. Anyway, once again, thank you very much. Have a great day, and really appreciate it. And the video here, recording today, will, as I said, be on the Careers YouTube channel in a couple of weeks' time. Bye now.
Thank you so much, guys. It was lovely to see your faces as well.
Thank you, folks.